Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Yes, I don't want to delay, but we have to introduce this wonderful, beautiful, humble sister who has been not on the sideline, but on the front line in the cause of resurrection of the dead. That's you and me. And has been by the side of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and as he said, is partially responsible for our study guides that we have been studying virtually, let's say, for over a year. Let's please welcome with a loud sounding round of applause our student national first spokesperson for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, Student Minister Ava Muhammad. Can they unmute themselves? Because I don't know if Sister Ava can unmute herself, Brother Bobby.
Oh, I finally got it, I think.
There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Thank you, Sister Janee.
You're welcome.
You, Sister Janee, and to all of the student ministers who serve as coordinators for this revelatory course given to us from Allah and His Christ through the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and of course our administrators, Brother Troy, Brother Bobby. We thank each and every one of you, not only here at headquarters, but those who in other cities around the country are seeing to it that we do not suffer, avoid, and ultimately lose our salvation, because we will without what is contained in this course, both the theory and the practical application. As you know, we are preparing to receive a new study guide, number 22. I pray that, Allah willing, we can start it next Friday. If not, all praise is due to Allah, then we will begin 19B, and at the moment that 22 has the green light, we will cease and desist whatever we're studying and immediately go to that crowning achievement of this self-improvement course, Study Guide 22. Tonight, I am humbled to seek or attempt to respond to some of the questions that the students in this course have raised. If you have not heard me respond to a question, and especially those who submitted their questions quite some time ago, that is an indicator that I plan to have the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan handle that question. That's why you're not hearing the answer to it. And even in providing answers, I'm relying very heavily on the actual words and the references in the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad from the Christ and from the messenger Messiah in our midst today, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Minister Louis Farrakhan is the fulfillment of the historical Jesus that is written of in the Christian Bible. He is the only person who fulfills every aspect of the life and the times of that Jesus. And without him, we would not be here. That's a literal fact. We would not be sitting here tonight were it not for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and his complete obedience to his teacher, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And with that, before I go to the questions, and I pray you'll be patient with me because I'm going to be looking at the questions on my phone on the spreadsheet. And so I'm going to have to scroll down in order to get to the questions. And so there may be little delay moments. But if you recall last week, the question of Yaqub, or who the minister referred to when we were preparing Study Guide 21, he said to me, you should call him Dr. Yaqub. That God scientist who the minister has referred to as the father of this world. I was asked yet again by someone via text about the accuracy of Mr. Yaqub or Dr. Yaqub being called by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad the supreme being of his time. And so I sent the person a screenshot from volume 2 of the Table Talks of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And I would implore us to get hold of and put into our library of knowledge, volumes 1 and 2 of the Table Talks of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But I want to this week say a little bit more about Dr. Yaqub, and I want to now come from Closing the Gap, which is the base for Study Guide and the title for Study Guide 20 as well. There is the book, which consists of a series of extensive interviews conducted by Minister Jibril Muhammad, who is the author of the series Farrakhan, the Traveler. Minister Farrakhan has said to me that the articles, we were talking one day about the amazing articles that Brother Jibril writes, and he said his writings are critical because he constantly keeps in front of us the connection between the three: Master Fard Muhammad, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And I just want to lift a few words from one of these interviews with Minister Farrakhan. This was from October 9th, 2005. And it was printed in volume 25, number 5 of the Final Call newspaper. Now, I'm starting with words from Brother Minister Jibril Muhammad, and then Minister Farrakhan's response. Brother Jibril writes, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had a way at certain times of first saying something to you and then interrupting it with something else, then returning to the first thing he was saying. He did it smoothly, not brusquely, harshly, or abruptly, but in a natural manner, as if he wasn't doing what he was doing. However, it would not fully dawn on you until much later. You would get and think on or act according to the part that was interrupted. Then you would forget it. But the part that he used to interrupt, the first part, is the part you would not forget. But it would not come up in your mind until later, often quite a while later, and it would also be as clear in your head as when he first told it to you. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad's words to me, this is still Brother Minister Jibril. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad's words to me in May 1966 that were one of the factors that led to this interview that I shared with Minister Farrakhan when the tape was off were, quote, now these are the words of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Master Fard Muhammad took me into the mind of Yaqub and showed me how the idea of devil arose in his mind. And then of recent, brother, he took me into the mind of the first God and showed me how the idea of universe arose in his mind. These two profound statements from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad that he shared on different occasions with Minister Jibril Muhammad give us yet another indicator of the awesome power of the minds of these two men. One, the originator. No one will ever equal the originator of the heavens and the earth, because no matter what we do, no matter what we achieve, he was the self-created one who called all of this into existence, and you can only do it the first time, one time. So he can never be replicated in his origination of himself and of this universe. He brought in life itself. Yaqub, why would Master Fard Muhammad show the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, take him into Yaqub's mind? He could have taken him into the mind of any God at any time, from the origin of life all the way through to when he came to us in 1930, and then in 1931 began teaching that one who would ultimately rise to become Mahdi. Look at the words. And he said this, and then of recent, brother. Now, this is in 1966. He's saying to Brother Jibril, he told me this of recent. So you see here, the God is still feeding the Honorable Elijah Muhammad directly. But he showed me how the idea of devil, which is from the opposite side of the mind of God, but he then took him after he had handled, I guess is a poor word, but the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was able to absorb this knowledge, which I can't even fathom. And I'm talking about how the idea of devil arose. And then later, he took him into the mind of the first God. Now, how powerful is that? But I wanted to open with that as a base for tonight's Q&A, because I'm going to be reading from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad throughout this evening, because Minister Farrakhan wrote to us that this course is a two-pronged course. It consists of theory and practical application. We learn the theory, but we prove the theory works by applying it. And so looking at some of the questions, I think that some of what I read tonight from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad may embrace a multitude of the questions. And the remaining questions I will submit to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan for his response. But I implore us to study. When a question comes up in your mind, seek to find the answer. Seek assistance through patience and prayer. look around you. Allah will actually bring the information to you. You'll pick up the Quran, you'll pick up a book, you will encounter someone. You will hear someone, see someone, you will get the answer. He said, pray to me, I will answer. Now, I want to read this. Well, let me first go to some of the questions. Okay, I had it up here and it slid away from me. Oh, that's what's wrong. I just have the headings, not the content. Okay, let me go back. Okay, this is a question from one of the students in the course who is a registered member of the nation. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan stated, the success of us in this process of growing from man into God requires that we expose our thoughts to one another. The questioners ask, does this only apply to our participation in the self-improvement study course? Can this apply to daily conversations with others since we talk to people every day? Well, that's a good question. Now, in truth, if you look at the language contained in Minister Farrakhan's statement, the success of us in this process of growing from man into God, this is a requirement of us passing this course successfully. It's required of us. It's a course requirement. Just like when I went to law school, in first year law school, you are required to take contracts. You are required to take torts. These are required courses in your first year. In order to graduate, there are certain legal courses. You must study criminal law, criminal procedure. It doesn't matter what type of law you ultimately practice. As a lawyer, you have to be thoroughly knowledgeable of all of the aspects of the law, and then you'll develop expertise in wherever you are led. But to get that Juris Doctorate, that law degree, you must study and you must be examined and you must pass these courses. You must study constitutional law. Now, this is in the United States system of jurisprudence. Now, we are in self-improvement, the basis for community development. This is I've said this before, this title is almost like a cover for what this course really is. It sounds like, oh, that's something Dr. Phil or Oprah Winfrey or a motivational speaker, for example, can help me with. But this is the self-improvement that forms the basis for community development. And we know that underneath a nation are communities. You cannot have a community, though, if you don't have a strong family unit, a multitude of strong family units. You can't have family units unless you have unity between the male and the female, father and mother, husband and wife. And you can't have unity between a man and a woman until each one of us gains unity of the self. So self-improvement is the basis. It is the foundation for community development. So we don't necessarily want to expose our thinking as we go out in the world on a daily basis. In fact, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, think 5 times before you speak. You have to know where you are, the environment you're in, and who it is you're addressing. So if we're in law school, I'm in that school, these other students in the class, ostensibly, they're after the same thing I'm after. Now, we may be motivated by different reasons for being there, but that's where we are. We're in that school trying to get that degree. Well, we are all here improving self as the basis for community development. And he says here, inside of the course, it's not in the title, but when you get in the course, he says this process is growing from man into God. And it is a requirement, it's mandatory that we expose our thoughts to one another. And so the question says, can it apply to daily conversations? It can apply to some conversations, but his reference to this is within the sphere of this not only scientifically based, but spiritually based course, okay? All right. How has the Honorable Louis Farrakhan demonstrated resurrection power, which is the same power that powers the will? How has he demonstrated that? Well, I will give one example that's easy for all of us to understand, to see and understand. The Million Man March. Resurrection, in biblical terms, the power to, well, and in Quranic terms, in both scriptures, the power to give life to the dead, to raise the dead to life. That's what we're doing in this process. We can't grow from man, man meaning male and female. We can't grow from man to God unless we're alive. And when he found us, we were essentially dead, deaf, dumb, and blind. So part of the process, or the initial phase of the process, is to bring us from a state of death into a state of life. In order to be alive, you have to make motion. That's an indicator that you're alive. You know, when someone is lying stretched out on a sidewalk and someone approaches them and wants to see if they're alive, what do? They take a pulse, or they put their head on their chest to see if there's a heartbeat. There are things that you do, but what all of those things have in common is motion. If the heart is beating, that's motion. If there's a pulse in the wrist, that's motion. If I speak to you and you respond, that's motion. That means life. Death is motionless. So when Master Fard Muhammad came here, we were motionless. We were just being pushed around like dust by the white man, by the slave master's children. But we of our own volition were not making any motion. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in 1995 fulfilled what is written in the Bible of the historic Jesus. When Jesus raised Lazarus from death to life, and it was the raising of Lazarus from the dead that really agitated and took the enemies of Jesus to the next level, and a commitment that something had to be done, a finality. It was really at that last stage of leading to the crucifixion. This man is raising dead people to life. He's got to go. Now, how did Jesus bring Lazarus, who had been dead for 3 days? How did he bring him to life? Did he pump his chest? Did he give some kind of intravenous fluid to him? Did he stand him up and shake him? How did he bring him from death to life? He spoke to him. He said, Lazarus, come forth. And he didn't yell it or scream it. You get up out of there. He just said 3 words. Lazarus, come forth. In the book of John, John, the cousin of Jesus, the only man standing at the cross, and all others were women, John writes in his gospel, in the beginning was what? The Word. And the Word was with God. And the Word was God. And the Word became flesh and dwelt among men. So Jesus, when he commanded Lazarus, Lazarus, come forth, that's a directive. That's God talking. Because there's only one who has the power to give life. He says in the Holy Quran, I give life and I cause death. And so when Minister Farrakhan called 1 million of the descendants of slaves, of a people who Master Fard Muhammad found making no motion in 1930. And now in 1995, having remained in complete obedience to his teacher, who had expressed to him in 1963 that one day I will call 1 million. How did Minister Farrakhan bring 1 million Black men to Washington, D.C., in the seat of the capital of Satan? Our captors, who once had a law prohibiting us to even speak to each other without their permission. He didn't make an application to the president, who then it was Bill Clinton. He didn't go and ask Congress, is it okay? This was by Allah's permission. And when he issued that call, it was on the men to get there by whatever means they were able to come. In other words, the power of the word enables the person to bring themselves up out of the death state. And that's how Minister Farrakhan has demonstrated resurrection power. And that's a very good question, because it gives all of us the opportunity to revisit what our Christian brothers and sisters call a miracle. And not 1 million, but nearly 2 million men, grandfathers, fathers, brothers, sons, babies, they all came. And they came. The minister didn't give out tickets. He didn't offer meals. He didn't offer travel and transportation. He just said, come. And they came. That's the power of the word of God. Master Fard Muhammad, the great Mahdi, came to North America by himself. Now, this questioner is lifting from page 10 of Minister Farrakhan's introductory letter to Study Guide 19A, dated February 23rd, 1997. Master Fard Muhammad, the great Mahdi, came to North America by himself He is a master with the knowledge and understanding of the root of this world. His knowledge enables him to uproot this world and begin a new one. His complete understanding of our illness and the illness of the entire human family enabled him to design a medicine to heal us. And the question says, my questioner asked, well, what is that medicine? That medicine is the spectrum of these teachings, beginning with Master Fard Muhammad saying himself, the scope of my teachings can be expressed in 6 words: accept your own and be yourself. The word of God. He came not only with truth, not only able to reintroduce ourselves, because look at our name, the Lost Found Nation of Islam in the West. That's our official title. We, the tribe of Shabazz, the God tribe. We're lost and found in the West. Why in the West? Because this is where the head of the serpent is. And once we can take down the serpent here, then the tail, it's like shooting a spear into the eye of a giant octopus or a giant squid. When you get him in the eye, you're getting the brain. And then all those tentacles, all of that just curls up and dies. So the rest of the world, they are under the tentacles, but we are in the belly of the beast, or we are at the head of the serpent. So the medicine, how to eat to live, that's medicine. Our Savior has arrived, medicine. The fall of America, that's medicine. Our classes, our lessons, our meetings, our teaching, our going out among the people, this is the medicine, because he studied us for 20 years before he ever came here. So that is the medicine. And look at what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said. He said, my aim is to destroy the medical profession. He's talking about of this world. And he said, because it is not a culture of healing, it is a culture of drugs. All right. So there are questions from some of you that ask about Master Fard Muhammad's father, questions about him as supreme being, and questions about the tribe of Shabazz. And so I want to read some excerpts from different interviews given by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And his words are for us to apply to this revelatory course of study in our understanding of it. We're taught that the most profound statement ever made is that God is a man. God is a man. That's 4 words. Why is that the most profound statement ever made? Because we have been living under spookism, and it is spookism that has kept us enslaved. And so the first thing that had to be done is to purge us of spookism. God is a man. And every aspect of these teachings reiterates and demonstrates that it is the human being who has the capacity to become God. And as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said in his writings, he said, everything that has ever been done to you, for you, by you, or by someone else has been done or affected you in any way, good or bad, has been done by a human being. Not by a spook or spirit, but by a human being. Now he says, and this is an interview. No, I'm sorry. This is from the Table Talks also, December of 1972. You, he stated, you can create the image that is in you, that is in your mind. Once you can conceive the image of it, of what you want. See, if you're able to image what you want, he says, then you can bring it into being. That which you cannot create in your mind is something you cannot do. Yet, that does not mean that which you have not yet conceived is not coming in. It may come in your son's mind or the son of your son's mind. That same thing which you were trying to get hold of will come up in someone else's mind. That is, if it is necessary or if it is good. So what is needed and what is good is ultimately going to come into existence. So we should never feel frustrated. So he says a good example is our Savior. And this is what I wanted to get to. He said the people had been wanting someone to conquer this devil for a long time. So the idea kept going from one mind to another. Then finally, his father, Allah, produced the thing that was necessary. That is a son that would be wise enough to destroy the devil. He was lucky to have been the father. Wherever there is a line for something, it will be produced. Look at how real that is. See, Master Fard Muhammad, who is the supreme being and who is destined to bring in a new world, he had to be brought into existence by thinking. Yes, the originator put something in motion. He put laws in motion and things in motion that would bring this universe to eventual perfection. But the specificity or the actuality of those things came about through step-by-step processes and actions and interactions between human beings. Nothing spooky. The people, what people? Our people. Our people in slavery. And even before we were brought into slavery, original people around this world, from the time they came in contact with these made people, they knew and experienced that this is not going to go well. As the conversation went with Allah and the angels, when he said, I am going to place a ruler in the earth, and they were alarmed because they knew this was one that would be a blood shedder, which he is to this day, even as he goes out. But Allah said to the angels, I know what you know not, that we had to be purged of the mindset that is contained in the Caucasian people, but was in us. And he said that in this study guide, 19A. He showed us the worst part of ourselves. But our people had been wanting someone to conquer this devil. So an idea traveled from one mind to another. And finally, his father, Alfonso Muhammad. So someone had asked the question, was he the supreme being? So we see the answer. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad referred to him as Allah. His father, Allah, produced the thing that was necessary, a son, wise enough to destroy the devil. Now look at this. Yes, Yaqub was the supreme being of his time. He had to be, because we've been ruled by what he made for 6,000 years. What he made has the power. And it took this power vested in Master Fard Muhammad to take him out. Now, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad goes on to talk about, and this is in an interview in 1964 in Phoenix, Arizona. And he's talking about the tribe of Shabazz. We don't have the date of the beginning of his civilization. His, meaning the Black man. We don't have the date of the beginning of his civilization, because once upon a time, the moon and the earth were together. There cannot be a specific spot pointed out where the original building of civilization took place. We do not know, according to the teachings of Almighty God to me, that once upon a time, we had nothing in the universe but the sun. After that, stars were made, and from stars to stars to stars and stars. They saw that the star was essential to our well-being. And from that, we began to make planets. Between the creation of the sun and the earth is 6 trillion years. The universe is often referred to as having been made or created in 3 stages or 3 divisions, 2 trillion years to each. You must know yourself. You cannot go and live in the midst of your people on the planet Earth anywhere unless you have a knowledge of yourself. I am here with that knowledge for you if you will just accept it. Let's see who we are. We were brought here in America 400 years ago, according to the history of our enslavement, by Christian white people. Remember, they were Christians, not sinners. They were Christians who made our fathers slaves. And it was Christians who did not allow our fathers to become Christians for 300 years. It was not sinners, it was Christians. Now, what was our history? Historians, students of history, what was the history of our people before entering slavery here in America? Where were they? You say Africa. How long had they been in Africa? Let's chase the history of our people and see who we are. If you don't know yourself, it is due to the fact that you do not know your own history. And if you know your own history, you know yourself. How long had our fathers been in Africa before the white man went there and brought them into the Western Hemisphere as slaves? Where were they from before they got into Africa, or did they originate there? You are scholars and scientists. Why don't you know these things? If we are a people that are to be respected and not be an outcast in the civilized world, what were our fathers before we ever came to America to come to the realization that we are an outcast and unwanted people in the society of nations? Where did we come from? And were our fathers anything? God has revealed these things. He said to me, before the white man ever brought us from that particular continent, we had been there 50,000 years. He again said to me, before going there, we were in what today is called Arabia, that entire peninsula, as they call it. Before the white man came there, that country or peninsula was called Arabia. And although they have it divided up into many other states today, it was called Arabia, meaning first, or Asia. The continent of Africa at that time was called the jungles of East Asia. Our people who are there today came from a scientist who wanted to make a people who were capable of withstanding the hot sun and could get along with the beast and other animals of the jungle. He went to the 24 scientists and pleaded with them to allow him to take his family into the jungles of East Asia to make the people he thought would be capable of withstanding anything in nature. That man was one of the tribe of Shabazz. We are tracing our own history. This man, belonging to the tribe of Shabazz, was the father of us from 50,000 years ago up until today. In other words, for 50,000 years, he has acted, or he was in the place as the father of us. Before this tribe of Shabazz produced that scientist, there was a tribe of Shabazz called the number one tribe before our deportation from Moon. And that deportation from Moon took place 66 trillion years ago. It was one of the tribes and the only scientific tribe that escaped that great disaster of the explosion on our planet in those days, who came with this part. This part of our planet dropped 36,000 miles from the original pocket it was in at the time of that explosion. That explosion or blast caused this part of the planet to drop. I'm sorry, I just read that. The part that you see at night called Moon, from the force of the blast, took it 12,000 miles away from the original pocket. That part of the earth that dropped 36,000 miles from its original pocket found another pocket in which to rotate. It never did stop rotating. It was too short of a distance for the planet to slow up its speed of rotation. If it had slowed up, it would have affected the people, but it did not slow up. That blast made, and the drop the planet made due to the blast, kept the planet rotating at the same rate of speed. The sun that causes and compels the earth to rotate on an axis did not lose any power of attraction. on either part. She, the sun, kept both parts moving around in their orbit as this other part, moon, followed us and is attached to the same part that it came from for power to continue rotating it. Now, he says 12,000 miles away. We know now today that the moon is about more than 200,000 miles away. Well, initially, it only went 12,000. It was enormous because it was so close to us. But as time passed, it went further out from us in distance. Now, remember, someone had raised the question, what was God doing in all these trillions of years when he was hiding himself? And remember, the answer is that he did not ever stop being God. There has always been one among our scientists whose knowledge is above the rest. And that one has supreme knowledge and is called the supreme being. There's always been one. What happened, though, is it is us who lost knowledge and comprehension of him. It did not affect him. And as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad just said in this page that I read you, this explosion that the first Shabbat set off, it had no impact on the sun whatsoever. And the sun lost none of its attraction as a result of this explosion. So no matter what we're doing in a state of rebellion or disobedience, it has zero impact on Allah being the possessor of power over all things. Nothing escapes his service. Everything happens as a product of either his active will or his permissive will. And what is the difference? The difference is like the 20 feet of water in Kentucky the other day. That's the active will of God. He makes that happen. But there are many things that he allows to happen. That doesn't mean he necessarily agrees with us. So it's a mistake to say, well, if God didn't want me to do this, he wouldn't have let me do it. That's not necessarily so. It is not in line with his active will, but it is in line with his ultimate plan. And thus he allows it. And so he says they plan and Allah plans, and Allah is the best of planners. Right, let's go to another question. Now, someone asked, how do you get someone who knows the word so well to apply it? They are very eloquent, but easily get emotional and cannot move past loss, anger, etc. Well, the only way we can influence others is through the work we do on ourselves. That's the way we do it. Why is Minister Farrakhan so incredibly influential globally? Think back to we're not going to go do anything hard time travel. Let's just go back a few months to the Swan Song. He walked us through a series of trials, and he exposed his thoughts to us at the time. But what he showed us and demonstrated is that the path from man to God is what? Self-examination, self-analysis and self-correction. And so what we're all working hard on, and it is hard, it's hard not to attempt to impose our perception of things, our will on others. Why? Because at our root, we're God's children of the Most High God. We're the God tribe, Shabazz. And so we want to exert power and control. We want our perception to be the perception of any given thing. And that's part of this struggle. That's me, that's you, that's all of us. We have to balance the God within with an understanding that Allah is the true center of everything. That's study guides 10 and 11. 10, the God within. 11, Allah is the true center. The sun itself is very near the center of the universe. She's not at the center, because at the center is the mind of the originator. And so we don't want to worry so much about getting someone to apply the word, but what we do have to do is control our own sphere. Don't allow someone to upset your balance. And the way to do that is to work on strengthening yourself, because who and what is around us and in our sphere, we called that. We called that into existence by what we're projecting. And so when we do what the minister did, we're not here to be carbon copies of Minister Farrakhan. There's only one Minister Louis Farrakhan. There's only one. There's also only one you. And your job and my job, as he learned his, remember when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told him that he had another purpose in life, but beyond entertaining people and making them happy with music? And the minister said at that time, I didn't know that. His teacher told him that. He thought he was meeting his life's purpose, but his underlying desire was to make Black people happy in a world that hated us. But God had something else in mind. I'm gonna make you make people happy, all right. You're gonna change the world. Now, this section here, I see we're running out of time. I just want to read. I'm not going to get it close to where I plan to, Brother Bobby, but
take your time.
The tribe after the blast, after the deportation of Moon, and I'm just putting all this out here because we have to come out of the thought and completely break with the thought. This time of separation is real. We're talking about complete disconnect, all right? And we have to disconnect from the narrative that life began for us after the Emancipation Proclamation. And even the lingering thought in some of our people that we were just some wild savages in the jungle. And even though the white man forced us onto his boat, we owe him a debt of gratitude because he civilized us. That's got to be put out of our mind. And so this history, this is what has to be taught to our babies in the womb, in the cradle, not waiting until they're 15 or 16, but when they're in the womb. But let me just share this. And this is from a lecture by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in Baltimore, Maryland in 1960. This particular tribe from which our fathers came after the earth was fit after the blast, were the first explorers. They explored the earth after the blast or Earth's deportation from Moon. They found the best spot on our planet Earth to make a home. They covered or explored the entire earth. It was our fathers. We are from that same tribe. They are the ones who set up history for us. They wrote it and told about it. We have it today in the holy city of Mecca, put away for safekeeping in a vault where no man is able to get to or attack it or even look upon it, except 12 people. There are only 12 people on our planet today that have the privilege to look into that history, and they keep the knowledge within themselves among the 12. The only one today who knows the secret of that book is the 12th one, who is acknowledged by the other 11 to be God in person. That book contains all that happened among us before we made Moon. I say because it was our father. I say we because it was our fathers who made it. There are ways to prove the truth of this. If you are a scholar, scientist, or astronomer, you have a way of proving this. Before we made this moon, we had Mars turning as our moon for Earth. Our Earth at that time was approximately 10,000 miles in diameter and 36,000 in circumference. Today, it is approximately 24,896 in circumference with the equator, or approximately 25,000 miles, and straight through at the equator, 7,926 miles. Before deportation of Moon, the Earth was approximately 10,000 miles straight through it and about 36,000 around the equator. She has always been egg-shaped when the moon was with the Earth. She has never been a totally round sphere. It was our fathers who came with our planet and have produced for us today what we have. The God we have today is from that same Father. I want to bring you into the knowledge of yourself. There is no such thing as God other than us. It is a grave mistake for you to try producing a God other than man. We, the Black man, have been God ever since we had a life germ in the universe. And the first life germ in the universe was us. This is from God Himself. Let me say right here that men's wisdom lasts or is supreme until another one that is more supreme comes about. That is the way gods operate. We do not have just one man's wisdom that extends all through time. It is another one. Your wisdom, for example, making a radio may last 5 or 6 years until another man learns to make a better one. And yet you will still get credit for being the first one to make the radio, but it has been improved upon. You could come back 100 years from now and you wouldn't even know your own machine because so much improvement has been made upon it. Look at the Ford motor car. If Ford saw his car today, he would say he was dumb by comparison. Although Ford did not put all of the improvements on the car, he was the founder of it. So it is with wise men in spiritual work and other sciences that we worship of the God that has made and created. We have them coming at intervals. When the wisdom of one is exhausted, another one picks up and improves upon what you have done. Like the God that divided our planet, he was wise enough to want to have his word bond 100% and let every man know he was to speak the same language and think the same thing. That was against nature. The heavens and earth are just not created that way, like that. They vary. Consequently, he failed and he was angry. And he said that since they won't be like he wants them to be, I will destroy myself and them too. But he missed, because the universe is made in such a way by the Creator. You can't destroy it yourself, nor can you destroy the people of the Creator, regardless to your plans, whether Russia or America, which have the deadliest and most destructive weapons that have been fashioned by any scientist or war of the past, that can destroy human beings on this earth 3 to 10 times if they wanted to, they can't do it. Regardless to what weapons you may use to destroy all on the earth, you will fail, because there is someone always sitting back behind the curtain that you don't know, who knows what you know. He knows an enemy that can destroy the enemy that you have fashioned. This is the way it was in the time of the man who wanted to destroy our planet. And so deportation of moon is of just indescribable magnitude, yet we survived it. Now here's the Honorable Elijah Muhammad 60 years ago talking about Russia and America and all of their weapons, which have only become more powerful and destructive since then. And he said, no matter what you think you can do, you will never destroy us. And so, beloved, I'm closing with this. Fear Allah and Allah alone. And the fear that he wants us to have is not trembling, restrictive fear, it's reverence. I don't care what Satan comes with. He has nothing that can destroy the original man. And you are the biological as well as spiritual descendant of the originator of this universe. So when you walk out of here tonight, or if you're at home, just go into the next room, go with your head held high. I'm going to do the same thing. We want to walk this earth in humility, but our humility should be directed to the God, and our gratitude to him for allowing us to be here to witness the greatest event that has ever taken place, the coming in of the eternal kingdom of heaven. So may Allah bless us all with love and the light of understanding. And I want to turn the program back over to Brother Bobby Muhammad. And thank you all for your patience so much. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you so much, Minister Ava Muhammad. Can we hear from those that are present, if possible? Allow her to be able to hear.
Allah Akbar.